Hey, hello, and welcome to my channel. As you can see from the title today, we're talking about A Clockwork Orange. And as the thumbnail said, I think I might have found some connections between Alice in Wonderland and Kubrick's 1971 film. Of course, I already did a similar video on The Shining's Alice in Wonderland connection, which you can see here. And yes, I do think Kubrick must have liked Disney's Alice in Wonderland from 1951. So let's take a look and see what we can find. Now, I'm going to start with this shot of Alex's parents visiting him in the hospital near the end of the film. You'll notice they've brought him a gift basket that's filled mostly with fruit, but if you look closely, you can see there's a tin or small package in the middle of the fruit, and on it, it says, "Eat me." This is such an obvious reference to Alice in Wonderland, who, of course, finds a glass box with a little cake inside of it, and when she eats the cake, it makes her grow. Also notice the red outfit on Alex's mum, a subtle nod to the Red Queen, perhaps. One of the most prominent and well-known characters in Alice in Wonderland is obviously the White Rabbit. Of course, he's the reason Alice started on her adventure, and by following him down the rabbit's hole, she ended up in the strange place called Wonderland. So, who might represent the White Rabbit in this story? Is it Alex? Well, I don't think so. He appears to be the main character, the Alice character, if you will. So, what lures Alex and his droogs into adventure and mayhem and mischief? Is it boredom? Perhaps. Maybe those drinks from the Korova milk bar represent the White Rabbit? They definitely get up to trouble after they drink them. That, combined with the post-industrial dystopian hellscape they live in, seems to be the reason they go out and do the things they do. Now, of course, there is another Alice book called Through the Looking Glass, and I can't help but notice a couple prominent shots of Alex in front of a mirror that are somewhat evocative, what with the explicit black and white art that's on the wall. Of course, in Through the Looking Glass, Alice is playing with two cats, one black and the other white, before she goes through the mirror. Even the Korova milk bar, a strange, otherworldly place, is decorated largely in black and white. And the colors black and white are also famous for being the colors of a chessboard, which also features prominently in the Alice books. Now, you might think the drinks in the Korova milk bar, like Velochet or Synthmesk, might correspond to the Drink Me potion that's in Alice in Wonderland, which makes Alice small after she drinks it. And you might be right, but there's another potion in A Clockwork Orange that more closely mirrors the Drink Me potion that makes Alice smaller, and that's the experimental drug they give Alex during his Ludovico treatment that's apparently called Serum 114, since it changes Alex into a totally new person after the terrifying treatment where his eyes are pinned open, after which Alex becomes almost submissive and paralyzed in certain social situations. In a way, the potion and the treatment, quote unquote, have made him smaller. Now, after Alex is released from prison, he has an encounter with his old friends, Georgie and Dim, who've now become policemen. It's an ill-fated encounter for Alex since they basically beat him up and try to drown him, but he's unable to fight back. These two, Georgie and Dim, almost remind me of the Alice characters Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and as I've referenced in an earlier video, it's been said that the characters in Alice in Wonderland represent different mental and psychological disorders, and Tweedledee and Tweedledum are said to have a shared psychotic disorder, since they finish each other's sentences, share the same delusional beliefs, and also find it hard to focus. Perhaps Georgie and Dim also share some psychological symptoms from living such a random, violence filled life when they were younger. Now, I can't mention Alice in Wonderland without mentioning the Mad Hatter. Of course, Alice meets him on her adventure as he is having his mad tea party, but he's also well known for his hats. I think he was supposed to be a hat maker, and hence the name. But did you know Kubrick had the Droogs from A Clockwork Orange try on many different hats before settling on the ones we see them wearing in the film? Look at this shot. These weren't actually used in the film. Apparently, this was just a screen test, with Kubrick trying different hats to see what worked best for each character. Notice Pete has a hat with a symbol that looks similar to a Masonic square and compass, although it's hard to see. And Dim, in one pic, is wearing an equestrian helmet. Of course, Kubrick eventually gives Alex the iconic bowler hat, also favored by English bankers. When Alex ends up in the writer's house towards the end of the film, realizing who he is, they sort of put him on trial and decide his fate, except Alex survives the fall. Of course, there's also a famous trial scene in Alice in Wonderland called Who Stole the Tarts? The trial, of course, is conducted by the King of Hearts, with the Queen eventually ordering Alice's beheading, but Alice escapes to get back home. One last connection I saw involves language. There's the famous poem from Alice Through the Looking Glass called The Jabberwocky, which Alice couldn't even read unless she held it up to a mirror because the writing was inverted. But also the language itself was sort of mixed up and made up words like these lines. "'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogroves, and the momraths outgrabe." Of course, it sounds like nonsense, but A Clockwork Orange is famous for its inventive use of language, a made up language, more or less, from author Anthony Burgess called Nadsat, which is Russian for teen. Many of the words are also Russian influenced, such as bolshi, which means big or great, or devachka, which means girl. And although you don't need a mirror to read it, you definitely might need this handy appendix at the end of the book that lists the words and their meanings. So, is there a connection between Alice in Wonderland and A Clockwork Orange? Well, I think there are definitely a few obvious connections. First one for me was the gift Alex's parents brought him, which actually says, "Eat me" on it. Next would be the similarities between the Serum 114 that is given to Alex during the Ludovico treatment and the Drink Me potion that Alice uses to get smaller. Alex's treatment arguably makes a part of his psyche or personality smaller too. And then the real possibility that the White Rabbit character of Alice, who leads her into all sorts of strange adventures, might be represented here by the strange drinks of the Korova milk bar, since the Droogs start all of their mayhem after drinking at the Korova, and the drinks are white, just like the rabbit. But then there's Alice's second book, Through the Looking Glass, arguably something the Droogs do when they drink those drinks, or where Alex steps through when he's receiving the experimental treatment. And there's prominent scenes featuring a mirror, like here in Alex's room, with that explicit black and white art in the background. There's a lot of odd imagery here, and although it may not be explicitly stated, I think Kubrick may be hinting that Alex and his friends are sort of through the looking glass when they leave their homes and enter the violent nighttime world where they spend a lot of their time. Oh, and one last thing, the names. Alice starts with a letter A and L, and of course, so does Alex. A small point. but just one more connection between the two main characters. Well, that's my new video about the connections between A Clockwork Orange and Alice in Wonderland. Hope you liked it. I'm working on something for next week, and I hope to finish that soon. Again, thanks for all the great comments. And it would help my channel if you did hit that subscribe button. But either way, my name is Shim. I want to thank you for spending time with me, and have a great day.